at the top without saying something you shouldn't, realizes her husband belongs to the corporation. Belongs to the corporation. The Harvard Business Review put the demands of the corporation even more vividly in carrying a report on a study of 8,300 executives made by Lloyd Warner and James Aberglen. It stated that the mid-century American wife of an executive must not demand too much of her husband's time or interest. Because of his single-minded concentration on the job, even his sexual activity is relegated to a secondary place. Becoming a successful team player clearly can have its joyless aspects. In July 1954, a magazine published primarily for businessmen, The Changing Times, took a look at the world of tomorrow. By tomorrow, it meant a decade hence, in 1964. They explained that big business, big government, and big unions would tend to level people down to a common denominator, where it would be harder for a man to be independent, individualistic, or his own boss. And that's exactly what they've done, because governments themselves, with their own laws and taxations and standards, have put most small private business out of the running across a good part of Europe, and they're doing the same in the States and Canada. An upper level of scientists, engineers, and businessmen will pretty much run business and industry. And that ties in with Professor Carroll Quigley, who he said the new system that's coming in is a form of feudal system, where the CEOs of corporations will be the new feudal overlords. Getting back to the book, it says, they themselves will be more highly trained technically and less individualistic, screened for qualities that will make them better players on the team. Almost everybody will have to go through extensive psychological and aptitude screening. Almost everybody will have to go through extensive psychological and aptitude screening. No longer may the bearded scientist fiddle with retorts in his cubbyhole. Perhaps that day when there would be no place for an individualist to hide was not far off in the future, as changing times seem to assume. At graduation time in 1956, Newsweek ran the results of a survey on what kind of college graduates, especially traits, industrial recruiters were looking for. It reported that words dynamic, conformity kept cropping up as the recruiters outlined their specifications and explained industry's flesh merchants shy off the bookwormy and the oddball. We'd rather have a Dickey than a Phi Beta Kappa, they reported. Let the freaks go into research. Even there in research, apparently, they shouldn't assume they can go off in some retreat by themselves. Team research is the coming thing. Well, it's done. It's a done deal today. The whole team research bit. Now, I'll try and keep reminding you that even with this data here, where the man is showing you the techniques that were coming through from the 1950s onwards, that psychiatry had a mandate in itself to basically be a form of guardians of the world, as they called themselves, where they wanted and demanded at one point to be put on the boards of corporations and also in government to watch over governmental officials and prime ministers and presidents. They blamed all wars on the individual, in fact. And I always wondered about that, because it takes the masses to follow. And see, there's a symbiosis between the masses and the individual. But there's also a symbiosis between the masses and those that lead them. The individual is stuck in the middle, really. He's squeezed out by the masses because the masses themselves want conformity. Racism at its very roots is about differences. You don't need a different color or a different language to be involved in racism. You see it in any school you go to, where those that are not in the in crowd or they're seen weak in some way or other are picked on by the others because they're different. And in wars, it's the masses that do what they're told. The masses won't dare kill anybody individually, but when they're told to kill someone by their government and wear this uniform, they will do it. and get rewarded for it. Here's doublethink for you. Here's doublethink in its most common, basic sense. So the symbiosis between those that lead and the masses that follow, glumly, perhaps at times, is essential for their system. It's those stuck in the middle that want to be individuals and who can live and let live that have the problem in this system, because they're not taking into account at all by either group. Getting back to this book and summing it in, or at least putting it in with, remember, the necessity to destroy the family that was all through Marxism and all through the philosophies running the ruling elite of some countries like the UK, such as Lord Bertrand Russell, who helped test a lot of these schools for children to make them do things that was prohibited in the schools that existed. And it was interesting how they got away or got around these particular problems. What they had to do, as I say, is get the man out of the picture. The females they found were so easily manipulated. Women are more apt to try anything new. No matter how crazy it seems at the time, they will try it. They go for motivational behavior modification. They actually go for it in droves to be the new you. Anything that promises them to be the new you, they go for. 90-odd% of all advertising magazines are aimed at women, because through them you change the family unit. That's what Hitler said himself. Hitler said we shall promise them safety and food. Basically shouting over the head of the man, you see. He says the female will come to us. So you aim the propaganda at the female. Bush has done the same thing. We will keep you safe. You're willing to give up your freedom for security. Same technique. But Hitler said the woman will come to us, the child will follow the mother, and then must follow the man. These techniques are known and used over and over again. How do you get the man out of the picture? And we've all grown up with this. It says here to do with children. It's called the psycho-seduction of children. Page 139. A show can appeal to a child if found without necessarily offending the child amusements or pleasure. It appeals if it helps him express his inner tensions and fantasies in a manageable way. It appeals if it gets him a little scared or mad or befuddled, and then offers him a way to get rid of his fear, anger, or befuddlement. And then it says, social research diagnosed the appeal of the highly successful howdy-doody and found some elements persist or present that offered children listening far more than childish amusement. Because they were already doing it then. Clara Bell, the naughty clown, was found consistently to exhibit traits of rebellious nature. So the child identifies with the clown. Clara Bell, it noted, represents children's resistance to adult authority and goes generally unpunished. So if Clara doesn't get, Clara Bell doesn't get punished, then the child thinks it's wrong if he gets punished as well. The report stated, in general, the show utilizes repressed hostilities to make fun of adults or depicts adults in an unattractive light. The bad characters like Chief Thunder Thud, Mr. Blockbuster, Mr. X are all adults. They're depicted either as frighteningly powerful or silly. When the adult characters are shown in ridiculous situations, such as being all tangled up in their coats or outwitted by the pupils or the puppets, the child characters in the show are shown as definitely superior. In other words, it explained that there's a reversal process with the adults acting childish and incompetent, and children being adult and clever. It added that the master of ceremonies, Buffalo Bob, was more of a friendly, safe uncle than a parent. And that would represent the teacher. It takes over from the parent in schools. This is psychology. This is planned manipulation of altering society. It's through all the comedy shows. It's been on the go for about 30, 40, 50 years. The same situations for adults. Not just in the cartoons, although it's still in the cartoons. It says all the sly sniping at parent symbols takes place while mother, unaware of the evident symbology, chats on the telephone content in the knowledge that her children are being pleasantly amused by the childish antics shown electronically on the family's wondrous pacifier. Entering next to the space shows,